Hello and welcome this morning. I apologize that we did not have the live 5:30 class this morning, the early birdie in Christ practice. My alarm did not go off and I did not even wake up, so I slept right through it. So this is a continuation of the last few classes that we've done, where Jesus has been inviting us to really sit with the journey of embodying just the physical support of your chair. And we've been going very specifically through the emotional sensory core and sitting with one or maybe sometimes two of the areas to really draw out and strength train the capacity for that area to recognize and integrate that we are held by the place where we are seated physically. Once we get through the emotional sensory core with the physical chair, then we're going to be doing the emotional sensory core with God's living support. So welcome this morning. So today we've gone through the head, specifically how does your mind perceive the chair and the support of the chair? What imagery do you see or what thoughts do you have about that? And then we went into speech, where the speech for the receptivity of things, I'm sorry, I'm itching everywhere. The speech for the receptivity of um, embodied receptivity is here is where I am always already supported. Here's where I'm already supported. And that's very specific for this work that we're doing. And then now today we're going into the layer or the region of the impulse to behave. Does my system easily move towards recognize and receive the support that's there? Or do I notice a hovering or an incapacity to feel the support? Or do I feel a tendency to want to move away from the support? This is not something that you can contrive when we're talking about embodied experiences. You can't make an embodied experience happen. This is something that either you're going to notice your system's able to move towards it or it's not. And so in today's class, when we're talking about the behavior, this is what we're looking at. And we're really looking at what is true for your system. This is one of the hardest things to arrive with because we so quickly want to jump into, I'm just going to make this true. I'm going to make this the way it's supposed to be, the goal that I'm going for, rather than really noticing what is the relationship that you are having with just experiencing that the chair is supporting you. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and we're going to walk through that today. This is what Jesus is inviting us to do. And let's go ahead and begin the way that Jesus invites us to begin. If you guys are coming on right now and you're a little confused as why there is an 8:15 class going on, this is the 5:30 class that I slept through this morning. But this is the continuation of this little series that we've been doing. And so I did not want to miss doing that. There will be a 9 o'clock class after this, which is the Co-Resurrection class. So if that helps anybody understand and orient to what's happening here right now. Okay, so go ahead and grab your journal, get comfortable, and we can begin. So Jesus invites us to first notice how we are supported and connected to, supported by and connected to the place where we are seated. And as you notice how you are supported by the place where you are seated, you're going to take a moment and notice which part of your body feels the most supported. Which part of your body feels the most supported by your seat? And as you notice that, you're going to go ahead and write that down into your journal. And you're allowing your brain to see, here is where my physical body is the most supported, is already supported by the place where I am seated. And you're just allowing yourself to feel that. So, when we're looking at the different regions of the emotional sensory core, today we're working with the impulse to behave. If we wanted to get really specific with that, we would call it your organic impulse to behave. This is my unconscious, what my system is already doing. And the really cool thing about this practice, the way that Jesus is teaching us this and how that lines up with our nervous system, is that what we're looking at every time that we sit down in class is what part of my system is already the most connected to God's loving and living support. What part of my system is already connected to and available to receive God's living support. You're always going to have some part of your body that is the most connected or touching the most or resting into the most. And this is an unconscious thing. And so we're really helping the brain to start to see that. Think of a time that you get really excited or if you get overwhelmed and you can feel how the body kind of comes up and it tightens and it's like, you can feel yourself kind of hovering a bit because I'm so up and I might be tight. The reverse of that is very open and settled and quiet and connected. But even when I'm excited and I'm up and tight, there's going to be one part of my body, relatively for my personal system, that is still the most connected to whatever I'm doing. Let's say if I'm driving down the road with the hanging onto the steering wheel, I might be thinking about something. I might be overwhelmed by my own driving or somebody else's driving. Sometimes it's just my own driving because I'm like going so slow, I'm not sure where I am. But anyways, I could be overwhelmed by something driving, but I'm still the most connected to the steering wheel, usually by the way my hand is holding the steering wheel. Usually I find it's my middle finger hanging on to the steering wheel like I'm gripping. And that's where I'm the most connected. And that's where I would start to connect and let myself be held by God in that moment of intensity. So even when we are super intense, overwhelmed, angry, have strong emotions happening, are in a very alive moment, there's always still going to be something for your body where you are the most connected. And when we're looking at what is your impulse to behave in relationship to the support that is available, that's the question that we are really noticing in our mind. I can't override my system doing this and then just all of a sudden tell my body to be totally relaxed and receptive to God in the moment, and the body just, oh, okay, let me just do that. If we could, we wouldn't even be in these practices because we would just be able to proclaim it and then it would just be so. But we have this amazing body with this amazing capacity to carry our sacred life experience in it, and that life experience is meant to be integrated. It's meant to be brought back home to God, meant to be brought back home to the divine. Every little experience that we've gone through, this is the way God designed us. But we have lived separate from that. And so, in the living separate of that, I have certain ways that I have behaved in response to the intensity of my life. So, I have places where I've really carried my life. I've like trudged through it and I've worked really hard. And that part of me is going to have to learn how to recognize God and how to learn how to trust it and develop that relationship to rest in. I have other parts of me that want to run away from aspects in my life and don't want to be even holding space for what's happening in my life. And so those parts of me are kind of collapsed and also don't recognize God. And I have other parts that are, I could go on and on, but there's different ways of behaving that my system has used and your system has used to cope with our life experience. And the beautiful point of all of these practices is that you and me, are not meant to be coping with that separate from Christ, separate from this living support. And so today, as we're looking at, okay, here's where I'm the most connected, and how does my body respond to that? What is my relational response? Do I hover? Do I move away? Do I collapse? Do I just get confused and I can't feel it? What is my system doing in relationship to how I am held in the seat? So let's take a moment together, and you're going to go back to that body part that you wrote down. And we're just talking about the physical chair, the physical chair. As I am recognizing, here's the body part where I'm already connected. And as my brain notices that and I give my body time to receive it, how does my body respond? Let's take a moment and we're going to share it in the chat box. And as we keep sitting with it and we keep looking at, here's where I am already the most connected. Here's my body part where I'm the most connected. And I'm noticing, how does my system respond to that as I keep looking at it? You just keep noticing it and letting your body then respond. And the more time that we give it, the more subtle reorganization begins to occur. Notice what's happening for you. And also notice if nothing is happening for you. Notice if you can't feel this or if this is confusing. Participants, with this, I can't see who's on here or who is, but I am here to support each of you in this. So if you have questions or if this doesn't make sense, please feel free to ask. There are no stupid questions. We're all just learning from right where we're at. So feel free to check in with wherever you're personally at with this, okay? And the longer that you continue to keep looking at that part of your body and that it is supported and it's connected to and supported by the chair, you're just noticing that very subtle experience that begins to happen. You can name that. So we're looking at, as you are recognizing how you are connected to your seat, how does your system respond to that? What is your impulse to behave as you're noticing that body part that's the most supported? How is your body responding? Are you feeling like, oh yeah, I can move towards that? Or maybe there's some hesitancy, or maybe there's some confusion and collapse. Maybe there's like, I don't know what I feel. Um, you're just starting to notice, how does your system relate to just the physical support. Right now we're just working in the physical support of the chair and how your brain and your body are able to recognize and relate to even just tangible physical support. Not even getting into the aliveness that God's offering you through that yet. So participants, you're just noticing what it's like for you, and if you can, you're just checking in and naming what that is for you. And the longer that you're sitting with it, so this is what we're doing with these little mini classes that he's having us doing right now at the 5:30 hour today, the late time of that, but he's really stretching it out. So he's saying, keep going back and keep looking at how you are connected to the chair. Notice how that connection is changing subtly. And it really just depends on what you have going on in your life. Each of these experiences are going to be different on for everybody on every different day. Like there's been days where in this class I'm like, when is this class going to be over? I cannot stand one more minute of being present with myself. And it's like so strong I can really barely even sit here and do it because there's something that's going on that's so intense. Or there's sometimes if I'll sit down, like I can't even feel the chair because my mind is so wrapped around something that's happening so strongly that I can't even feel it. There's other times that I don't want to feel it because there's something that's happening and I don't want to allow that thing that is happening. So I don't want to go through the process of feeling because I don't want I don't want to be okay with what's happening. You know, then there's other days when I feel it and I can totally feel it and it feels peaceful and it feels really, really good and it feels restorative, you know, but it's not going to be showing up every day and it's like, oh, I'm just falling into this restorative grace of God and it's just always amazing. That is not going to be the case when we are dealing with our embodied experiences because our body is going to be having many different cycles of experience. And what these classes are teaching us to do is to learn how to actually really hear what your own experience is and learn how to welcome it in fully. And it's only through going through this with Christ, going through this with yourself, that you learn how to be in relationship with your own humanity and in relationship with the full spectrum of humanity of everybody else around you. Because we're all going through all these weather systems of experience. And this is like, how do we learn how to allow and support what is actually present rather than trying to contrive some experience that we think is the experience that's going to make us feel happy and safe. That's not what we're being invited to do with these practices. And so, as you're noticing what is true for your body today, what is true for your system, can you name it? And can you allow it to keep unfolding within you and watch where it leads you when you just really strengthen that capacity to hold it and to allow it? So again, we're noticing the body part and we're noticing how that body part is held by and connected to the place where you are seated. And just notice what other parts of your surface where you are seated may be also feeling supportive. So I can feel the more that I'm sitting here, I feel more of the chair, more of my body being supportive. See if you can recognize that and name it. Or maybe you feel like more anxious, just noticing what is true for your system. There is no right or wrong. Mm-hmm. So participants, this one of the participants is saying, I feel little ripples of fear in my pelvic area as my mind is preoccupied with something that's happening. And one of the really cool things that happens with our nervous system is that when I am able to recognize, okay, here's where I'm supported, even just for a moment, there's usually some type of little opening that happens in my system, a little bit of settling, a little bit more space happens, a little bit more, even just for a moment of quietness in my mind. And then into that open space comes my humanity, comes more of my experience. And so then I'll be noticing that experience. My mind is kind of engaged with that, or my body is engaged with my humanity's experience. And then I can notice that and I can say, okay, here's where I can kind of wake up and kind of come into consciousness with it a little bit and say, okay, I can feel I'm thinking about all that's on my plate for today, and it feels a bit overwhelming. And so then I can say, here's how overwhelm happens in my body, and here's where I am already supported in that overwhelm. What's happening? Where am I supported now in the chair? And so then I go in and I feel where I'm supported again in the chair, and then more opening happens, slows it down, and then that makes more space for my body to take in this experience of overwhelm safely. My humanity is going to be this endless stream of my humanity. It's going to keep coming. I'm not going to sever my humanity and just be in this divinely held experience because I'm not holding anything in the divinely held experience. I'm just being held. But that's not the point of our life. The point of my life is for me to participate in the holding of my humanity and the humanity of other people around me. And so each time I am refreshing my brain's awareness and my body's experience of how I am divinely held, I feel that for a few moments, and I am uh, like micro renewed by that for a few moments. It gives me a little bit more aliveness, a little bit more width and capacity to then take in more of my humanity. And this is the Christ practice, which is radical, which is ever welcoming, ever bringing in, drawing everything into itself through this power and mystery that is greater than itself. I'm not just supposed to be sitting in the light, basking in the light, just for myself alone as this individual person, and then sending that out consciously to who I think deem be, deserving of my light that I am receiving from the divine. Jesus is like, your life is predestined, your challenges are predestined, you're already given everything that you need. You're invited to just feel how you're already given what you need and be the mediating space for the humanity that is like on this conveyor belt coming to you, that is for you, that you are then going to say, yes, I will take in this next piece because I am held and connected to Christ so that I can take in the next piece. And so it's this dance of powerlessness in that all I can do is receive my divinity and receive my humanity, and then receive my divinity and then receive my humanity. And that is harmony. That is how we bring harmony and integration to the world. And that is how something new begins to occur in this world. Otherwise, we are not in harmony because we are shutting off the challenging aspects of our humanity, and we're just trying to lean into what feels good. And that's not harmony. That's not balance. Balance and harmony is the holding of the both, in the aliveness of the both. And this is the radical thing that Jesus is teaching us, which is I can, through the power of Christ, welcome in my full self. So notice in your own experience, not only what your relationship is to being supported by the physical chair, but also what your relationship is as you are recognizing your humanity. Notice what is your relationship with that. Let's take a moment and allow ourselves to feel what's happening as we are noticing our humanity and the limitations that it brings with it. So Jesus is leaving us with this perspective, which is, we're just saying it over and over and over again, like 10 million different ways, which is only through the power and mystery of Christ can you hold internally space for the depth of your human experience, like the depth of my suffering, the depth of my limitation, so that it can become something new within me. But I can't do anything with it if I don't have that mystery and power of Christ, if I'm not receiving the support of Christ to allow me to do that. Because my limitation, my suffering, is a continuum of my ancestors. It is not mine alone. So it is bigger than me. And it is not only about me. It is expressing itself through my life and my stories. But that's just because now it's my turn. And so either I'm going to look at those stories and see, what am I being invited to step into? What am I being invited to relate to through my life, through this power of Christ? Or I'm going to totally be in the story and be a victim or a persecutor or a rescuer. And I'm just going to live there trying to manage my story, living separate from Christ. And nothing will change in that. Nothing's going to change that's going to be passed on into the continuum of this world and of my children beyond me if I am not changing it through a power of Christ. It will not change. It's not going to change. Jesus came here to show us how to change it. Jesus says, here's how you do that through your body, through your being, is to move towards the suffering, to tenderly hold that suffering through the power of Christ. And so today, what we're working on in this little mini class is, can I even receive the support of the physical chair? Can my brain even develop the endurance to be receiving the support of what is already here? And can I be interrupting my day often to be recognizing what else is present for me that I'm actually receiving? This is step one. It's a superficial layer of the chair. And, once we get through this part of the emotional sensory core, then we go to that deeper layer of, now feel God alive in the chair. And what is God providing you? Can you strength train your brain enough to begin to really be in this living relationship the way God designed us to be? This isn't common for us right now, and that's sad, because this is actually the way that we're built by God to be living, but this is possible. And every person that I have worked with who has been wanting and willing to develop this has been able to develop that capacity in their brain. But they have to walk through the ways in which they are not. And they have to begin to want that from their heart. I want to give my life to become this relationship with God, to become this relationship with my creator and the creator of everything around me. I want to be living in that relationship. I don't want to be living in this illusion of me as the God of my life, because I don't know what I'm doing, you know? So just noticing wherever you are at on that continuum, wherever you're at in that place of being able to feel it or not feel it or all this thing. We have all these expectations of what we think it should be. But if we can just arrive with the fact that no matter what, you're already supported right where you're seated. And if we can just return back to that, and we can keep returning back to that, through that, you will be guided in the same way that I was guided. Different stories, but the same power is going to guide you that has guided me, that has guided every other participant who has chosen to invest their life to sit down and begin to feel the living mystery of Christ. I give great thanks to Jesus, who does not let me go. And even in this morning, how my alarm didn't go off and I didn't get up, the experience of what it feels like to walk those first hours of my morning not integrated the way that I usually am feels horrible. It feels so confusing and so overwhelming and crushing. And I could not wait to get my son dropped off and to get everybody fed so that I could sit down and get plugged into the living Christ that is what fuels me and is what changes my life and carries my life and does it kindly rather than me trying to carry the weight of that on my own. I don't like it. And so I'm so thankful that I get these experiences of living in it and then living outside of it and what that feels like. And it breaks my heart for those of us who are walking around without it and don't know that they're choosing to leave something on the table that is the thing that would totally revolutionize their living experience. So I'm so thankful to Jesus for standing with me, showing me how to do it, and then that we just keep showing up. It's just amazing. I send you guys a lot of love. I'm going to be starting the co-resurrection practice here in just a few moments, and I hope that these practices are touching your life and benefiting your life in the same way, or maybe even more. That would be amazing for you if they were. I love this practice, and I love Jesus, and I love Christ in ways that I would have never known possible. I'll see you soon. Take care.